Today's Rosa Parks Day is the anniversary of her birthday, and her action was about making sure that transit was available for everybody. It was about desegregating buses so that everybody could ride. And so I think that it's a great reminder as Transit Equity Day that transit is really about access. It's about making sure that people can get to jobs, can get to work, can get to school. And so her legacy is one that's not only about desegregation, but it's also about economic access. There's this incredible 1950s bus behind me, similar to the one that Rosa Parks sat down and wouldn't move on. She was an inspiration that individual people can make a difference, that individual people as part of a whole can really change America. Public transit is really the backbone of making sure that our economy can grow. Whether it's bus or it's rail, it's really the way that we are able to move our lives. And so I think the vision for equity in transit is making sure transit's everywhere, making sure it's affordable, making sure that it goes to the places that we need it to go.
Auburn Avenue was considered one of Atlanta's most famous streets, replete with successful Black-owned businesses, beautiful houses of worship, and an unparalleled nightlife. Sweet Auburn Historic District generated significant wealth prior to the Civil Rights Movement. A bustling thoroughfare, it was home to Atlanta Life Insurance Company and the nation's first successful Black newspaper, the Atlanta Daily World. Renowned artists like Miles Davis and Gladys Knight graced the stage of the Royal Peacock. Sunday mornings meant Big Bethel AME Church and the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where both Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. and Jr. delivered powerful sermons. Civil rights activist and businessman John Wesley Dobbs coined the area Sweet Auburn. Dubbed its unofficial mayor, he was the grandfather of Atlanta's first Black mayor, Maynard Jackson. Sweet Auburn Historic District received a National Historic Landmark designation in 1976.
Today is Transit Equity Day. It's a day that's recognized across the country to recognize how important public transportation is to the lives of people in our communities, and that it's important to also support the people in our communities who rely on public transportation to get around. Today is also Rosa Parks' birthday, so this is a very important Transit Equity Day because of the inequities that were experienced on the public transportation systems in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a rainy day today. A lot of people who are trying to get to work are having to stand out in the rain waiting for a bus that might come 10 or 15 minutes later, may come a little early and might disrupt their whole day. We need to make sure that people can get around safely. Having relied on public transportation myself for several years, having given up my car and commuting all the way up to Forsyth County from right here in Mechanicsville, I've seen the daily realities of so many of my neighbors, of my constituents, and I want to make sure that I could take that history, that legacy, as an inspiration to make sure we get better policy for everyone across the city of Atlanta.
We're here because once again, Atlanta is making history. We have opened up Unity Place, the first in the nation, one-of-a-kind housing for police recruits. So that's why we are here now. We are giving our recruits some place to stay actually in one of our most vibrant communities. As we talk about community policing, we must give the officer a chance and opportunity to get to know the community. Once you're on call, once you're working, you really don't have that opportunity. But here now, at the beginning of their training, they have an opportunity to actually live amongst the neighbors, to actually live amongst the people that they will actually be protecting. So this is why it is very important. They're very excited about having the police officers in their neighborhood. First and foremost, it gives them a sense of security. And then once again, it also gives the neighborhood an opportunity to get to know the officer, because it goes both ways. The neighborhood has to know the officer as well as the officer knowing the neighborhoods. This is a catalyst. With everything, even with America being pioneers, we have shown and proven that this can work and will work. So now you give other people the possibility to actually go off and do something different. Don't stop with the police. Don't stop with the police. We have firemen, we have teachers, we have public safety workers, public workers. So let's start this and let this be the catalyst for us moving forward, doing other great things throughout the city such as this.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Councilmember Dustin Hillis, Chair of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. I want to welcome everyone to join this afternoon. And Ms. Lindo, our able assistant, if you'll please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Councilmember Byron Amos. Councilmember Keisha Sean Waite.
Present.
Councilmember Mary Norwood.
Here.
Councilmember Marcy Colley Overstreet. Councilmember Boone.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Julian Bond. Mr. Bond. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum of members present. We are missing Councilmember Bond, Overstreet, and Amos.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. And just for your awareness, I'm not currently able to get the boardroom up, so I need your assistance. There it is. I'm working on it now, but if you will please read our remote meeting statement.
Yes, good afternoon. Today's Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee meeting will be conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with the Georgia Code Section 60-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 404-902-5066 and entering conference ID number 151945.
151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 151945. 1519
This information was also provided on the Friday, February 11, 2022 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage, at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council website and accessible via the Public Safety and Legal Administration Community Presentations page. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, February 11th via the city's website at atlantacitygA.iqm2.com. In addition, the public is able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-622 yesterday between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are please requested to mute your phones and your speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. All amendments, substitutes, presentations, and other informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Before we move along, I want to make sure that Ms. Councilmember Overstreet was marked in attendance, and also Councilmember Bond states that he is muted but is here. It was off that.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Amos is on the phone as well.
Welcome, Councilmember Amos. Thank you.
Chair Lewis, can you hear me now?
Yes, Councilmember Overstreet.
Thank you.
Ms. Lindo, can we please confirm her attendance as well as Councilmember Bond? Are you?
Can you hear me
now? Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So, Ms. Lindo, with those three checked in now, what members are currently absent, if any?
I believe we have all members present, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, I will make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, Councilmember Overstreet, how do you vote?
Affirmative.
Councilmember Overstreet, affirmative. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? Councilmember Amos, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Councilmember Amos, aye. Please close the vote.
Vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have 6 yeas, 0 nays. I'll now make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Overstreet, how do you vote?
Affirmative.
Councilmember Overstreet, affirmative. Councilmember Amos, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Councilmember Amos, aye. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? One last call for Councilmember Boone. How do you vote? Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That's 6 yeas, 0 nays. And before moving along, we have some feedback. I can hear some feedback. So if you are not speaking, please mute your device. And with that, that brings us to this point the point in the agenda where we have public comments. We have almost 7 minutes of public comment. Ms. Lindo, will you play those, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. One moment.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad, a soulful spiritual being, and I recognize I have a spark, a tiny spark of consciousness that represents the absolute, actual real of the creators, or who you call God. So I ask you, members of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, and especially the United States. In 1865, we find ourselves in of the war, the Civil War. 1866, it was suggested that the 14th Amendment needs to be inclusive of the darker hue people, the indigenous people that you had forced into slavery, would have access to whatever race the Caucasian had. At that time, there's only one the darker hue and the Caucasian. Now in the 21st century, I ask you, the chief of police, do you remember how the police got started on the plantation? When one of the indigenous people who were forced in slavery ran to have persons on that plantation to go find them. And from that point on to the day, we still have you finding the people for wrongdoings they do against corporations, against private citizens. But to have a spiritual energy, we young men will not do what they're doing today. We have to turn back to the poetry that the Caucasians found when we was ruling the earth. The woman, she was the one that represented the prosper and still do. The patterns of the culture do not change. The order of the Creator is always the same, like electricity. If you go into the country and the way to get accessibility, you'll find yourself destroyed. Because you cannot destroy electricity. You cannot recreate, but you can be in my principle according to balance, the yin and the yang. So I ask you, members of the legal profession, let's look up the law and encourage the administration of Mr. Dixon. So let's do way for the young men that find themselves in a conflict by the police and then put in the fourth largest prison institution in the United States of America, Georgia. Georgia have a constitution that it owes the dark. Let's study the culture of the dark people. Brother Anthony Muhammad, my make sure I have okay, I have a makeup. Thank you. It's time now. It's time for trans.
Greetings, council members, and special greetings to you citizens and voters of Atlanta monitoring our government in action. Howard, Ranger Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. And so now we have it, a citywide public safety commission. To the officers of the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board and to the officers of Neighborhood Planning Unit R and other neighborhood planning units in Southwest Atlanta, let's get busy and help populate those 5 working groups. Citizens of Atlanta, to see how you can help combat crime through our newly established Public Safety Commission, please call the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board at 404-827-8011. That's 404-827-8011. Citizens of Southwest Atlanta, please call the NCUR phone line 402-979-6787. That's 402-979-6787. Let us work together to help make the Public Safety Commission work.
You know, to speak of Christ, my name is Unread Jordan. Husband, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Ephesians 5th chapter 25th verse. As Christ gave himself for the church, so there is to be no sacrifice, not even the laying down of his life, that the husband should not be willing to make for his wife. I know Jay Montgomery don't desire to be a husband like this. To obey Jesus is life, to disobey Jesus is death. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. 1 Peter 3rd chapter 7 verse. Love with understanding. A man that make me responsible for his 20-some children is not honoring me as a weaker vessel. Husband, love your wives and be not bitter against them. Colossians 3rd chapter 19 verse. Be not bitter against them might be translated. Do not be harsh toward them. The word of God created the income, not me. I be working against the income. Nevertheless, through a bar fornication, that every man have his own wife, that every woman have her own husband. 1 Corinthians 2nd chapter 7 verse. Both marriage and celibacy are gifts of the Holy Spirit. Christ let me know that James has been with so many women that those spirits will jump on me that I cannot handle. To be a Christ-like husband will make the policeman's job easy. Christ said to bless me with the income Jesus created in me, will bless yourselves. Thank Christ for letting me obey, for the power to obey Jesus. Let us obey Christ in the fullness of his word, to receive his blessings and to fight for his will for our lives. Thank you. Obey Jesus.
That concludes the public comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. At this time, we'll move on to presentations. First up, we have with us Deputy Chief Murphy from APD for the APD bi-weekly update. Deputy Chief Murphy.
Good morning, everyone. This is Deputy Chief Murphy with Atlanta Police Support Services Division, and I'm going to do the presentation for the police department. Okay, Ms. Lindo, you can go to the first slide. Okay, so the first slide is going to be our overall citywide crime for the entire city. And as you can see, for our crimes against persons, right now we are, for the entire city, our total crimes as compared to this time last week, we're down 2%. And when we're looking at the trend for the 28 days, we're down 15% as opposed to this time last month. And then for the year, for crimes against persons, for crimes against property, we're down 14% for the entire city. When it comes to crimes against persons, right now we are for the week down 2%. And for the 28-day pay period, we're down 5%. Now, for the entire year compared to this time last year to date, we're up 4% on crimes against persons. And right now we're seeing some of our trends being in zones 3, 4, and 5. So when we're specifically talking about in the areas of like our homicides, the majority of those homicides are acquaintance-based conflict resolutions. So right now, out of those 18 homicides, we have 6 that were from an escalating dispute. 2 of them were involving narcotics, and 3 of them were unintended victims. The unintended victims, 2 of those 3 were solved already, and 1 of them is still in the process. It happened inside of an apartment. But we're still working the leads on that case. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. All right, so the next slide, we're going to start breaking down what it looks like for each zone. And starting out with zone 1, we're going to, when we look at crimes against persons, for the week in zone 1, we're up by 1 specific crime overall for our crimes against persons. And so that equates to 8%. And for the year, we're up 2%. Crimes against property in zone 1, we're down 17% for the week. And then for the 28-day, we're up to 14%. And for the year, we're up 1%. And that's in zone 1. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. So in Zone 2, when we look at crimes against persons, we're down for the week, 71%. So it was 2 crimes this week versus overall crimes versus 7 this time last week. And then when we're looking at the month, it's even at 20 crimes for each time period. So there's no change in our percentage for the month. And for the total year, we're up by 1 crime, which equates to 4% for Zone 2. When it comes to crimes against property, we're up in overall crimes against property 25%, and for the month we're down. So it's trending down in the property crimes in Zone 2 by 15%, and because of that, for the year it's down by 37%. Next slide, Ms. Lingo. So next we have Zone 3, and for Zone 3 crimes against persons, we're actually down 36% for the week, and we're still trending down for the 28-day pay period, which is down by 6%, and for the year we're down 18% for crimes against persons in Zone 3. When it comes to crimes against property, for the week we're down 35% in Zone 3, trending downward by 12% for the 28-day, and we're up a little bit, 5% for the year, which equates to about 10 crimes over this year as compared to last year. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. So with Zone 4, when we look at crimes against persons, for the week, we're up by about 4 crimes, which equates to 67%. But we're trending downward in that area, and we're down 26%. And for the year, we're still down 8% as it pertains to the crimes against persons in Zone 4. We're talking about property crimes. We're up by a couple of incidents, so it's 24% for the week. We're trending up slightly at 13%, but we're still down for the year, crimes against property in Zone 4 by 11%. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. So in Zone 5, crimes against persons, we're up a little bit in the crimes against persons by 50%. We're up for the month, the 28 days, 37%. And for the year, we're up 58%. As far as crimes against property, we're up by 10% for the week, but we're still trending down by 2% in the 28-day, and we're down for the year at 5%. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. And then in Zone 6, when it comes to crimes against persons, we're down by 14% for the week. We're trending down for the 28-day at by 23%, and we're up by about 8 crimes, which equates to 38% for the year in crimes against persons in Zone 6. With crimes against property, for the week we're down 13%, and we're trending down for the 28-day by 15%, and we're still down for the year by 14% in Zone 6. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. So the next slide is actually a comparison of 2019, how we reported our incidents against 2021, the UCR guidelines. And as you can see, when we're comparing 2021 last year to 2 years prior, 2019, in homicides, we actually were up by 2 homicides, which equates to 20%. In rapes, we were down 71%. Robberies, we were down 24%. We were up in ag assaults by 59%. Down in burglaries, 43%. Down in larcenies from vehicle by 9%. And down larcenies non-vehicle by 22%. and we were up in auto thefts by 19%. So in total crime, comparing 2019 to 2021 last year, overall crime, we were down by 9%. And that comparison kind of shows us, what an actual full year, how we compare last year to what was our last regular year. 2020 was an anomaly for us because there was about 3 months that we actually didn't report any crime, and we still were able to compare against the numbers of a normal year and still come under without overall crime. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. All right, the next slide talks about our attrition, and right now, year to date, this slide actually is refreshed as when we last had to turn this in. So we're still working on our numbers and should be a little bit higher than this. But from when we last had to report before this, we have 8 so far that have resigned. And that's compared to this time last year, which was 4. So I'm sorry, not compared to last year. I'm sorry. 8 was how many have resigned, and I'm sorry, 4 was how many that retired so far this year. So it'll be a total of 12. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. All right, so the next slide is going to be our recruitment comparisons, and what it shows are for our hiring so far. For this year, we have 15, as compared to last year was 3. And how many applications that we've actually received and that were completed by the applicant, which this year is 294 as compared to 65 completed applications last year this time. Next slide, Ms. Lindo. And then the next slide compares our applications compared to last year, and our resignations for 2021 were 10, and so far this year for 2022 have been 8. And our retirements have gone down. Last year we had 8 retirements as compared to 2022, which is 4. And that completes our slide presentation for the police department. Unless there's anything else that you have any questions for me. Oh, God.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Murphy. I'll defer to my colleagues first. Anyone with questions? Mr. Chair. Councilmember Vaughn. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy Chief Murphy, for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. One, I saw a media report about the restroom situation out there at Zone 4, and it seems that the repairs that were needed to the plumbing took a long time and negatively impacted the staff working out of there. My question is, why did the repairs of such a crucial function within the building, do we have any explanation of why it took so long?
Yeah, so in reference to Zone 4, because of the age of the facility and the age of the plumbing, that's been unfortunately a problem that we've been dealing with for a really, really long time, for as long as I can remember. Since I've worked in Zone 4, it's been prior to that as well. So right now we're dealing with Dean in reference to that. Of course, the buildings, we always rely on them to make sure that our buildings are operating and functioning properly. And also we were looking to other locations to possibly identify as a good space for us to move our precinct to. And that's in the works right now.
Okay, so you all are scouting a new location for a new precinct?
We sure are. Yes, we are.
Oh. Okay. Is there any, I guess you hadn't really, have you all spoken with, I guess, Parks and Rec, since that's adjacent to park property, if any of that space can be made available, or is it off limits because of the park designation?
I missed the last part. If you said, talk to Parks about it not being, what was the last part you said, sir?
Certain land that is used for parks can't be used for other purposes, right? That's what state law says, that once it's been designated a park, you can't disturb the land for like 20 years. So, before you do anything, you can't make any other non-park improvements to it. I just wanted, since it is right there on the lip or edge of the park, had there been any conversations about building a new facility adjacent to where the new one is, or anything like that?
No, that hadn't come into conversation about building a facility there, because that would take probably, we're trying to look for an immediate fix because the plumbing situation is so dire. Now, if that's in future talks, that I'm not privy to right now. But right now, we're just trying to, mitigate the situation that the staff are in right now, and trying to get the quickest solution that we can get to in order to get them in a safer space.
Right. So you are looking at existing commercial real estate to kind of move them into. Right. I understand.
Yeah.
I guess. All right. Thank you for that. And my next question is going back to the parks officers in the parks. I know that Chief Brown was here, said that he was in talks with Parks and Rec about trying to identify the funding stream. Has there been any conversation? Do you have any update on that?
So it's still in conversations in reference to trying to identify the funding stream, but we have not made any headway in reference to where that's going to come from yet, sir. But it's still, the conversations are still active in reference to that.
Okay, well, my follow-up is, where does the money come from for the other retired officers that come back? Is that built into the police budget, or is that charged to wherever they may be performing their duty? Like, to say, for example, if they're at the airport, does the airport pay for it? If they're at a watershed facility, does watershed pay for it?
Okay, so there's a couple of different entities going at the same time. So you're saying the security that works at headquarters, you're talking about our reserves, or you're talking about our recaptures? I'm not sure, because there's a couple of different income streams with all of those.
No, yeah, I'm talking about the recapture. Like, if there are any recaptured officers working at the airport, does the airport pay for them, or just trying to get a feel?
Yes, Department of Aviation pays for those recapture officers.
Okay. All right, so there's precedence there that the user department pays for the salary.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, I hope that gets worked out quickly, because I'll put it back out there again, that Park Improvement Fund, 10% of that can be used for salaries. And since these officers would be on site in the parks, I mean, that is a ready, available source of funding. And there is precedent there during the Campbell administration. Police salaries were augmented by the Park Improvement Fund, and that's about $15 million a year that comes into the city.
Yeah, the last time when you mentioned that, Councilmember Bond, we've been actually really looking for any. So as an immediate fix to that, just so you don't think that we're just standing and waiting on one specific. We're actually meeting on how we can how we can restructure some of our current areas of the parks that are on the list for that type of security, and how we can move internally to actually identify people that we can exclusively have those parks, at least for some parts of the day. So we have a transitioning plan to lead to when those funding streams become available, so that we don't have, totally vacant until that time frame. We're making, maneuvers to try to make sure we have something in these parks that we can start standing up in the process of waiting for these income streams to develop.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I know that, Atlanta used to have a winter time, and, it doesn't seem to get very cold here for very long, and people are constantly, in the parks, and I'm hearing from them, that they, want to see that happen. And I think that, go ahead.
No, I said you're absolutely right. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. And well, I think I don't want to monopolize, but I appreciate your report. And with that, Mr. Chair, I withdraw.
Thank you, Councilmember Vaughn. Any other colleagues with questions?
Yes, this is Councilmember Overstreet. I also had my hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry, not seeing you on the speaker queue, but go ahead, Councilmember Overstreet.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Chief Murphy. I really appreciate your presentation with all of those details. Those are the kind of details we need so that we're making sure that we're taking care of problems as they arise, and looking back to see how we fare now compared to last year, this time, 28 days, all of that, all good information. So, of course, Zone 4, as Councilmember Bond mentioned, really, we got a real bad, that 67%, it kind of stings my ear. And I've been feeling it in real time as well, including today, received word that another person was shot and killed in the district. So it's like 4 deaths by shooting in the last 3 to 4 weeks, and that's alarming. And it didn't couple well with seeing the the porta potties at our Zone 4 precinct. A couple weeks ago, I did a ride along with the mayor, looking at properties that are options for a new placement of a precinct. So I know that it is at top of mind, but we're in a dire situation at this time, and I really hate that we always get to these situations. I just don't like to see the men and women that serve us in the best way having to use a porta potty. So I'm going to lean in and help the best that I can also with making sure that we have a clear path forward of cleaning this up and getting the proper plumbing, whatever we need to get that done. And we don't need to just rest assured that we're doing the right thing, because we do have a beautiful state-of-the-art training facility coming, a regional one, because we've got all of these things before us today. So it's important to me that we're doing what we're supposed to do right now to take care of our Atlanta Police Department. And I know that you may do and did your absolute best while you were the chief, the commander of Zone 4, and you all do. But, we need more, and we definitely don't want to be on the news with porta potties being on the screen. So, couple things. I will be working hard to make sure we have the proper facilities necessary and the funding there for our APD officers. Want to make sure also that we're properly placed. As you know, we've annexed quite a bit over these last few years, and we now go all the way to Camp Creek Marketplace. So this is an opportunity to kind of shore that up or correct that. in a way. So while go ahead.
No. Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
So while I see the trends seem to be generally headed in the right direction, Zone 4 particularly, those numbers are alarming. So I informed the Commander Jackson today that I need to have an immediate meeting to discuss those numbers, and because it just isn't playing well with where we are. You know, we've got that precinct, that Greenbrier, that isn't open, although it's supposed to be used in some capacity. If, you know, the windows are dark and no one can open the door. So we want to change that. We don't want to give the appearance that we're not paying attention or that we don't have coverage, and we've got all of this going on. So, yeah, if I would love to hear just some thoughts about all of that.
Yes, so, Councilmember Overstreet, you know that I'm very, very well aware of everything that you're saying in reference to Zone 4. You know I'm in total agreement with you. You're absolutely right and all of that. And I really, really wholeheartedly appreciate you saying the things that you said, because they do deserve better. And I appreciate any effort, you know, that you put forth to make sure that that's where we get to, because we're really doing our best to keep things as in working order as possible as we can for them. Because, you know, if we you know, take care of our employees, then and our employees will go out and take care of our citizens, and that's what we ultimately want to do. So I appreciate that. I do know that they worked on the plumbing, and they were fixed, I think, last week. The issue is that because the plumbing is so bad, it just keeps coming back. It keeps happening. And we've got to find an immediate fix to get them out of that precinct. And I know placement is important to you because we've spoken about that before. So we'll work together on this, and you know, hopefully we can make this happen soon.
Absolutely. Okay. And thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Overstreet. Anyone else with questions? All right, I have a few questions, Deputy Chief Murphy. One, just to follow up on the plumbing issue of the Zone 4 precinct. You know, I understand the need for a new facility in Zone 4, and we'll support that. But even if we identified that place and bought that land that was needed and secured a contractor tomorrow, which of course isn't going to happen, that's, you know, 12 to 18 months away once we do that. So are the bathrooms currently working? And maybe Dean is better positioned to answer this, but what exactly is the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, a plumbing system is usually a pretty simple thing and requires a simple fix most of the time, the sewage line at least. So help me understand what the issue is there better.
Yeah, so the toilets were fixed February 3rd, but again, because the plumbing and the infrastructure is just so old that, you know, and I'm not a plumber, so I don't want to speak to something I don't know. I guess Dean would best be able to speak to the intricacies of the plumbing there. But whatever is causing it to keep getting fixed, it just, you know, I guess the infrastructure of the building and the plumbing is so bad, it just keeps, you know, repeating itself. So I guess, you know, because I don't want to speak outside of what my expertise is, the best I could do is, in reference to the plumbing issue there, is to defer to Dean.
Gotcha, but it is currently fixed and working, is that correct?
So the last I know it was fixed. I have not been there today, and I don't want to say yes, and then something goes wrong today. But the last I know that the toilets were fixed.
Okay, thanks for that. And just as a follow-up to that, Ms. Lindo, if you would, reach out to Dean for a memo on where this is and the history of the repairs. That includes the cost of each repair and the contractor on each repair. Because, like I said, you know, we're pushing for a new facility, but this item needs to be fixed fixed for good until we can build a new structure for them. So can you do that, Ms. Linda?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, Deputy Chief Murphy. Next question is, we seem to discuss something about it at each public safety meeting, 911. If it's not a personnel issue that's been brought to our attention, it's a facility issue. And we again had, albeit what I've been informed, a short power outage a few nights ago that resulted in radios going down and the CAD, computer-aided dispatch system, going down. Radios were back up pretty quickly. CAD system took, to my understanding, a few hours and had to get rebooted, manually reset. One, where are we with the personnel issues that we brought to Chief Bryant's attention? And then two, where are we with the facility issues? And because it sounds like even the backup system that we've discussed many times on here is still an issue.
Yeah.
Elaborate on those two things.
Yeah, Friday was due to a power surge that was beyond, I guess, anyone's control. So contracts are being put in place now so that we can get long-term work done to it. And right now we do have contingency plans that are already set to be put in place so that we don't have a long downtime in the future.
Gotcha. And the first part of the question is, where are we with the personnel issues that we brought to Chief Bryant's attention a meeting or two ago?
So, I mean, we're still in the, for openings, hiring stages, we're not as short as we were. We're still in the process of hiring people for the openings that we have, and they're in the background process. I don't have the numbers right now in front of me in reference to how many we've hired recently, but that's still ongoing.
Understood. So, I think they've weighed in before, but Ms. Hickson, are you on the line? City Attorney Hickson, are you with us? Ms. Linda, can you check if she's unmuted?
One moment, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Hills, are you talking about the salaries or you're talking about vacancies?
No, well, specifically what I want to talk to Ms. Hickson about is facility issues, but personnel issues mentioned was not just, the vacancies, salaries, but, specific complaints from employees and things like that were spoken about a meeting or two ago. And I'm just, if you don't have the information, that's fine, but we'd just like some follow-up as to where we are with, seeking some resolve to those complaints that all of the council members have received, and that were, at least in part, presented to Chief Bryant and the police department.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that, if I remember correctly, the last time we spoke, it was in reference to union concerns, and so we are working with, those issues now. I'll have Chief follow up with you, I guess, on any specifics. But I do know some of the concerns, if they had to do with equipment or if they had to do with the COVID mitigation. We've been working towards those measures, and all that's been taken care of.
Gotcha. I'll just ask someone to reach out about that, plus the next bi-weekly briefing. We'd just like some more specific information about both the personnel issues and the facility issues and where we are in getting both of those resolved. So on the next meeting, if we could just have that.
Okay.
City Attorney Hickson, are you with us now?
I'm on. Hello?
Yes, Ms. Hickson, I hear you now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, and I believe we maybe brought this up at a previous PSLA meeting, but the way that this continues to happen with the facility that, of course, the City of Atlanta does not own, I believe it was discussed at that meeting that we're somehow got into a 30-year lease and have 10 years left or something like that, and it's a very hard lease to get out of. But, I mean, providing power is I would think that's a pretty standard part of the lease, providing, reliable power. So.
Okay, council member, I'm just joining, so I'm sorry I didn't hear which facility are we making reference to. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ms. Hickson. We're talking about our 911 center for like the 5th or 6th time now. And like I said, a previous meeting, it lost power again. I believe Friday night, the Deputy Chief stated. So is this risen up to the level of the City Attorney to look at this lease? And because I find it very,
we can do that.
That this, has not, if it has risen to that level, to review this lease, because they aren't even providing reliable power or a backup. So,
no, we're certainly happy to look at the lease. I think my staff has pulled it, but I have not looked at it. I will look at it, and we will come back with a response.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Hickson.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Hills, I think, just to, not that I know the details of the lease, but what I do know is that the lease has us as being responsible for all of those things. So, I mean, I guess, law would have to look into it, but I'm almost positive that the responsibility of that in the lease was written to be for us to handle.
Okay, thank you for that. And I was certainly defer to Ms. Hickson and let her do her research. But please get back with us via, I guess, a memo as to the details of this lease and what we are and are not responsible for, and how they can be held accountable for the shape that the center is in. As I mean, this is a large building. I imagine we're not the only occupants of the building, and I haven't heard any issues coming from other occupants of the building. So and we'll look forward to that, Ms. Hickson. Back to Deputy Chief Murphy. Just another request for the next presentation, next biweekly update. It's some more information, and provided a brief summary of where we are so far this year versus last year about applications versus hires, or I would say offers extended, because ever offer extended is, I imagine, not a hire. But if we could just get some information about maybe over the past year or past 6 months about the number of applications received versus how many offers have been extended, because both in this presentation and the quarterly we received, there's a huge disproportion between those two numbers. So I would personally like to see, how and why applicants are becoming disqualified. What are the leading causes of that? So if you could just provide some of that information in the next biweekly update, to be appreciated.
Oh, okay, sir. I'll see what we can compile by the next briefing.
Okay. All right. With that, any other questions from my colleagues or Deputy Chief Murphy? All right. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you all, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
You as well. All right. We will now move on to the presentation from the Atlanta Municipal Court.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hilla and members of the committee. I am Rashida Davis, Court Administrator and Chief Clerk for the Municipal Court of Atlanta. I will be going over the court's quarterly presentation today. And I am joined this afternoon by Chief Judge Christopher Portis. Next slide. You should be seeing the slide numbered as 2. This slide displays the number of individuals who entered the courthouse month over month for calendar year 2021. The total number for the year was 198,940 individuals, which was an average of about 16,500 persons each month. The court still maintains safe distancing requirements, and all individuals inside the courthouse must keep a mask on at all times. This includes employees as well as visitors. All courtrooms are operational 5 days a week with staggered times to keep the flow throughout the building safe and manageable. Next slide, please. This slide should be numbered as 3. The next 3 slides contain data that we compile on a regular basis, and we're required to submit to the State Administrative Office of Courts annually. The slide displays the number of traffic cases filed compared to the number of traffic cases closed month over month for calendar year 2021. As indicated, about 105,000 traffic cases were filed and 87,000 closed. Next slide, please. This slide should be numbered as 4. Like the previous slide, this slide displays the number of criminal cases filed compared to the number of criminal cases closed month over month for calendar year 2021. As you can see, about 9,600 criminal cases were filed and about 6,000 closed. Next slide, please. This should be the slide numbered 5. This slide is for comparison purposes. 2019 was the last full year before COVID. So we wanted to compare case filing to a pandemic-era year and put in perspective the volume that we're having now. The information reflected represents total cases for all case types. As you can see, the numbers are considerably off. In 2019, there were 176,000 cases filed. Last year, that number went down by almost 60,000 to 119,000 cases. This past month continued the downward trend as well. Next slide, please. This should be the slide numbered as 6. This slide displays historical failure to appear, or FTA, data from 2018 to the present. Looking back, 4 years includes periods from the cyber attack as well as the initial months of the COVID-19 pandemic. We track this data because it helps us to keep an eye on FTA trends. Total FTAs over this 4-year period represent 152,843 cases. Since 2018, the number of FTAs relative to the number of cases filed has continued to be unseasonably high. Next slide, please. This should be the slide numbered as 7. Continuing with the analysis of cases and FTA status, this chart and this slide displays the number of FTAs relative to the number of cases filed during the calendar year of 2021. For that 12-month period, about 45% of cases went into FTA status, or almost half. Next slide, please. This should be the slide numbered as 8. At the beginning of this year, there was a request for an organizational chart for the Municipal Court of Atlanta. We wanted to display that information and put some faces with the names and explain how the court is organized. The court is divided into 2 basic sides: day-to-day operations and the administration of justice. The administration of justice is what happens in the court on a daily basis and is conducted by each of our respective judges. The day-to-day operation is handled by me as court administrator and my team. I have 2 deputies, and we manage all of the courtroom departments and staff. My team and I work directly with the chief judge, who is ultimately responsible for administrative operations of the court, but who also serves as a judge in his primary function. Next slide. This slide should be numbered 9. The slide briefly details the court's administrative operational goals and objectives for this year. 1, failure to appears, or FTA. Our goals are to reduce the number of failure to appears, and we have instituted and updated a walk-in procedure. All cases in FTA status will be set to a specific court calendar that will hear only FTA cases. 2, staffing levels. We are working with human resources to fill positions to return our workforce to pre-pandemic levels. Presently, we have fewer frontline employees at any time during the court's history, less than 100 people. This has been an obvious impact on our operational abilities, and over the next coming weeks, we are working to replenish our ranks. 3, calendar capacity. As we move beyond the pandemic, we will be increasing the number of positions on court calendars. This will allow us to schedule more cases and to get cases closed faster. During the pandemic, we ran smaller calendars to accommodate more space inside the courtrooms. This impacted how far out cases could be scheduled. Increasing the calendar sizes will have a positive impact, and we are looking forward to that. 4, warrants. The Chief Judge has met with APD, including Chief Bryant, last fall, and discussed staffing shortages that impacted their operations as well as ours. The time to train warrant technicians and get them certified takes about 6 months after hiring. A short-term stopgap plan for getting municipal court warrants onto GCIC will begin this week. Until APD staffing returns, the municipal court warrants team will begin placing select warrants on GCIC under APD's number. The APD team will still handle the back-end process, and this will have a dramatic impact on FTAs overall. And 5, crime reduction. We've been hearing concerns from some of our community partners and crime about opportunities to impact behavior before it gets to the worst possible outcome. We'll be working with different agencies that send cases to the court, as well as community partners, to identify ways that our court and programs can be used as an intervention to graduated criminal conduct. Next slide, please. This should be the slide numbered as 10. This image on the slide was forwarded to the court administration by several attorneys who practice before our court, and anonymously to me, to my attention as well. Obviously, we were shocked by some of this information and wanted to take the opportunity to dispel any concerns that this committee might have, because some of this information is just patently untrue. So the program the flyer proposes to aid the homeless, in fact, already exists at this court. The time it takes for city charges or ordinance violations to be tried is actually less than 6 weeks. And the PCIT program is not a court-run program. State law provides that prosecutors in this entire state, they're empowered with the ability to set up and run pretrial intervention programs, and not a court. Next slide, please. That's the end. Thank you for your time and attention, and we're happy to address any questions or concerns that you guys might have. Thank you.
Thank you. I will refer to my colleagues again if they have questions first.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Court Administrator, for your very thorough presentation. I want to ask you about the FDA rate. It actually seems like it's gone up over the years of failure to appear. How many of those failure to appears were generated by the signature bond program, or can be attributed to the bond program?
Thank you, Councilmember Bond, for your time. Right now, we can just discuss what we see as far as trends. And the trend over the last period of 4 years, our FTAs have doubled, and they continue to increase. So I'm not I cannot say that's directly tied to the signature bond or the process, but I can tell you that I recognize our peer-to-peer rate is increasing, and it continues to increase.
Okay. We passed a resolution early last year, and we asked the court to send us some recommendations about correcting the signature bond program, but I don't think that you all have sent us anything back, because I know that when we enacted it, and it was unanimous, that we didn't know that you can't take the power and authority of bonding away from judges. So that's what we did when we enacted that ordinance back in 2018. And so I guess what I'm asking for is that will you all be responding to the resolution that the council passed about that? Because I think we need to make some corrections to that specific program, because from my anecdotal information gathering, I understand that there are individuals who have not only signed their bond once, but probably 2 or 3 times, and they really, if they're in violation, they're not supposed to be able to do that. So will you all be responding to it or giving us some recommendations?
Councilmember Bond, I'm going to defer to our judge. I believe Judge Portis is going to take this question.
Oh, okay.
Chief Judge Portis, are you with us?
Good afternoon, Councilmember Bond. I was trying to talk. I don't know if you can hear me at this point.
Now, that experience where we're talking, kill me.
Okay, great. I am aware of the resolution. Just as a point of a technical point, as the court system, we can't provide recommendations to the legislative branch about how to improve the laws itself. We can participate in information gathering, as well as participate in discussions on how legislation either that will be enacted or that's in place impacts the administration of justice, and provide information on the process itself. But individually, we can't submit back to the legislative body recommendations on how to make a product of legislation actually better. That would be crossing over the line of what we can and should not do with regards to the separation of our respective functions. I'm happy to, of course, engage in the information gathering part, as well as provide information on how the system actually works and what we're actually seeing as a result of the 2018 legislation in practical terms. But we can't, on our own, submit how the law should be improved, if you will, from that standpoint.
Okay, well, I guess we can talk offline about how better to coordinate, because I know, most people don't know the city had a signature bond program for 30 years or more prior to our action in 2018. The difference is it was run by the court, and there was court staff to support the operation, and to monitor and remind people to come to court. And with, what is it, 52 or 48% of an FTA rate, I mean, that's not justice being done. If people don't, for victims, people don't show up to court for whatever reason, so I guess we could talk offline about how best to facilitate that to not be in violation and to put the court in a awkward position. But I'll be reaching out to and the court administrator on that.
Happy to help in any way that we can.
Okay. But I guess my next question is, before I release the floor, is you all, has there been any conversation with the state court judges? I know that in sidebar conversations, it suggested to me that the allowment to kind of stem the tide of, or to help the wheels turn at the state level, that perhaps the Atlanta Municipal Court should go back to doing the first appearance hearings prior to these arrestees getting into the state system to help to defer or resolve some of those bond issues or whatever the issues may be ahead of a lot of these, I don't want to call them arrestees, I guess defendants in the state court system, you know, so some of the DUIs, and some of the traffic things. Have you all had any conversations with the state court about that?
Not as of yet. We have not had any conversations. We have not heard from anyone, and no one has reached out to us about that subject matter.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Judge. But thank you for your presentation. I'll withdraw, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Vaughn. Other colleagues with questions? All right. I have a few questions also regarding the subject of concern for Councilmember Vaughn, FTAs. Is there currently, I guess what you'll call a FDA court that hears these? Can someone walk in at any time and resolve them? How are these resolved?
The short answer is yes, and that is something, especially coming out of some of the constraints imposed by the pandemic, that we are bringing back online. One of the things that we will be doing over the next coming weeks is that anyone who has a case in FTA status, they will be scheduled for a calendar to appear in front of a judge that specifically handles just those FTA cases. Can someone walk in to register or otherwise get placed on that calendar? The answer is yes. Right now, due to COVID, it's not something that you can walk in off the street at any time and simply go in to see the judge, because we're having to monitor space the best we can with some of the safe distancing requirements. But also, in addition to the calendar itself, we will be reimposing, if you will, the requirements under state law and the time frames that you have to be able to resolve an FTA without penalty to your license. And those individuals who go beyond that period will have to face the consequences of not resolving the case within the time prescribed by law. So we'll be returning to a very basic approach to dealing with those types of cases in an effort to, one, deal with those cases and drive down those numbers, but also, two, because the word does get out once that system is back fully in place and operational, that you have to appear in court. Otherwise, there will be consequences to your life.
Okay, so that somewhat gets into my next question. So I take it, and this was kind of touched on in the presentation from the court administrator, but so I'm taking it when you FTA currently, warrants are not immediately issued for that FTA, or maybe not even immediately, maybe not at all. Is that correct?
Well, in part, I guess there are two different things that go into that conversation, and it deals with the two different case types. In the one hand, you have traffic cases, for instance, where there is an additional mechanism that impacts the driver's license under state law if you do not answer the charge within a certain amount of time after missing the court appearance. And then you have the separate category of criminal cases. Criminal cases fall outside of the license suspension mechanism. So all you have for those cases is the arrest warrant for failing to appear. Because of staffing and other things, the warrants were not being placed on GCIC the better part of 2021. This was a subject of concern of this committee that we sought to address. We've also met with APD to come up with a stopgap, at least short-term solution. The criminal cases obviously involve everything from the minor criminal offenses, including the housing, the code, the commercial code, fire code types of cases as well. So as we move through this week and into 2022, re-engaging the warrant process for failing to appear for those case types will be a major step also in driving individuals to actually come and appear and resolve those cases.
Okay, so beyond the staffing issues, what number one, when did this start going amiss? And two, what are the issues beyond the staffing issues that are currently hindering us from doing this? I mean, issuing a warrant when someone doesn't appear in court, I mean, I feel that's a pretty simple measure that, most courts would do. Getting that warrant served, I mean, that's a different story. You don't serve warrants if he does, or whatever other government agency, sees that in GCIC. But what are the issues and when did it start?
We became aware of it, I guess, maybe mid-summer of last year, and there was correspondence with the police department to make them aware that this process had ceased. And at that time, or as a result of the inquiry made by, in particular, this committee, we found out, as everyone did, that staffing was more than a notion. This is primarily driven by staffing. It's the primary reason. APD's warrant team lost a significant number of individuals, and that is, a part of the issue. In addition to that, and the reason that we are where we are, even with the short-term stopgap measure, even if you hired somebody today, it takes about 6 months to fully get them trained and certified to place these warrants upon GCIC so that any other agency can see them whenever there is a hit or someone is in contact with law enforcement. So not just hiring people, but also getting them trained, and the amount of time that takes is a part of the reason why this, I guess, process in some degrees went by the wayside. From the information that I've received, the discussions that we've had, it seems that as staffing levels are increased on that side, we'll be able to kind of return to a more normal relationship with getting these warrants placed upon the GCIC system. But that's going to be a work in progress as individuals are interviewed for jobs that they've applied for and actually onboarded, and then get the training that they need to carry out the function.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, this is an ongoing topic of concern for this committee. And, I was on this committee last year, as was Councilmember Bond, Overstreet, and Boone. And it seems the wheels are still spinning. So, what I would like, you mentioned APD, and, they're a part of this too, but I'd like a time certain attached to when this issue is going to be resolved. And, almost half of municipal court cases are FTAs. That is mind-blowing and unacceptable. So you may not be able to give it to me right now, but I would like for you, Chief Judge, and Chief Bryant, to get with this committee, maybe a joint memo or something, to let us know with time certain and what pieces need to fall in place for this to start happening as it is designed to do. So can you commit to that?
Absolutely. I can tell you in short order. We can we can issue the paper. That's the part that is the easy part, at least on the court side, is to generate the warrant and to sign it. But there are a lot of other steps that go into making that process a reality that really requires the personnel. So I think that that's probably the biggest piece of this. This isn't a process or a system that you can just do a hire and drive and next week it is resolved. But I can tell you, at least on the court side, that we're looking forward to that process being back up and going as well. As of this week, we have began to place warrants back on GCIC, the court staff using APD's identifying information, but we can only do that in a very limited capacity. We have fewer employees, obviously, and that was never a part of the responsibility per agreement on the court side, but we're trying to at least do something to carry us forward until the process is fully brought back to where it was prior to COVID.
Gotcha. And then my last, I guess this is a request because I may not have this information offhand, but if I could get info, I know we have high number of FTAs, but I would like to see something that shows the percentage of violations, traffic, DUI is a part of traffic, but criminal code enforcement, et cetera, versus the percentage of FTAs, just so we can see, or code enforcement cases are more likely to FTA or the traffic cases or something like that. So we'll just ask the court administrator to get us that information, please. All right, well, any further questions from colleagues? All right, thanks so much, Chief Judge Portis.
Absolutely. Have a great afternoon.
Take care. All right, next brings us to the Office of the City Solicitor for their quarterly reports. Solicitor Carter, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman Hillis and all members of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. I'm Raines Carter, City Solicitor, and thank you all for this opportunity to present our quarterly report to you. I am joined today by Deputy Solicitor Erica Smith. Let's go to slide 2 as our first slide. Our key priorities in the City Solicitor's office is, of course, to vigorously prosecute our state laws and city ordinances. And we are stepping up our efforts to leverage the technology to help us to be more efficient in resolving our cases in a fair and a balanced manner. We're responsible for screening all the cases. We're responsible for pretrial negotiations. And we make vigorous use of diversion and other alternative prosecution programs to try to move justice forward in terms of giving people a chance that deserve one, but also vigorously prosecuting those people that have no regard for our law. We also are going to continue to expand and step up our code enforcement initiatives. We want to tackle the blight in our city and all the other community concerns. So we are making use of all civil jurisdiction that we have, judicial and rem, condemnation process, and nuisance abatement, which we'll hear more about later in our presentation. We're going to continue to support our law enforcement partners, Atlanta Police Department and all of the other agencies that come into our system. And we do this through training. We want to improve their report ticket writing skills. We're seeking to improve and train with courtroom presence and testimony and do those things that we need to do to sustain successful prosecutions. And of course, we're going to continue our efforts with the City Council, all other city departments, our city administration, and all of our community groups to target specific types of problems as they arise in our community, and to be a presence in our community and to engage with all the activities to help move our city forward. Let's now move to slide number 4. So we actually skip a page. Our diversion programs, just to give you more specifics about what we do, we have 3 major programs. One of our programs is our DEV program, which have been put in place to assist the disabled, elderly, and our veterans when they are dealing with code violations. We, of course, collaborate with the Atlanta Police Department, our other city enforcement agencies with the Bureau of Buildings and Zoning, and Atlanta Fire Rescue to educate participants about home maintenance, fire prevention, and other safety measures to not only help correct violations, but to help with maintenance and keeping our properties safe. Our pretrial intervention program for traffic is definitely a program that we want to continue our efforts to make accessible to the public. But let's keep in mind that our primary goal is to promote safe driving habits and to hold people accountable, and giving them that opportunity to resolve their cases and keep their license status so that they can be part of our community, contribute to our community, but yet drive in a safe manner that keeps us from the problems that we're seeing on our streets. And so we want to continue to be a very real part of moving forward with safety. What's not talked about a lot, but has been around a very long time, is there's always been pretrial diversion for criminal charges. And we do believe in giving people an opportunity where they want to move forward and do the right thing and change their lives, even though they have made mistakes. And tied into the pretrial intervention program for criminal cases, of course, is record restriction, formerly known as expungement. If we would, let's move to the next slide, which is slide 5. Record restriction is very important because we as a city believe in giving people an opportunity. You all have been on the forefront with many other cities in our nation of giving the people opportunity to overcome criminal issues that may restrict their employment. We join in with that, with making record restriction an actual part of our diversion process, making those opportunities online accessible for people. There was a big change in the law after July 2013, and as you can see, with this past period, reporting period between the 1st of October and the end of the year, we were able to successfully do 31 record restrictions. We're working with many of the legal groups to help make it accessible to people. I would now like to turn over the remainder of our presentation to Deputy Smith, who leads our nuisance enforcement efforts, but I remain with you for any questions that you may have. And again, thank you all for this opportunity. Deputy Smith.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hildes, and all members and all committee members. I'm Erica D. Smith. I'm Deputy Solicitor. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If we can move to page number 6, entitled Nuisance Property Initiative. In this quarter, we continue to work closely with the administration, APD, and other
city departments to engage in biweekly committee meetings to resolve the ongoing nuisance property problem. The original nuisance property listing has grown from 25 properties to over 40 current properties that we are actively investigating and beginning to file. Since we had our last report, we did have a hearing on November 22nd of 2021 on 900 Newtown Circle, and that property was successfully declared a nuisance. The next hearing is set for March 1st, and that hearing will be on 495 Whitehall. Next slide, please, which is slide number 7. Since we began our nuisance property initiative, the Solicitor's Office has filed over 10 nuisance complaints and received favorable results against 7 properties. As you can see, it was a mixture of various properties, from clubs and lounges to actual apartment complexes and convenience stores. We were successful with 62 Harwell and, as I said before, 900 Newtown Circle. Both of those properties are large apartment complexes that were plagued with violence, as well as commercial and residential housing code violations. Each of these complexes had over 200 code enforcement violations, as well as high Part 1 crimes. We also were successful in bringing a TRO, which is a temporary restraining order, against one of the clubs that was at 2997 Campbellton Road, and that club is still closed down to this day. We were also successful with 12 West Peachtree, which was a club that had a high level of violence, and that was declared a nuisance. And we were also successful in revoking the certificate of occupancy, and that particular club is still closed to this day as well. If we could move to page number 9. The Solicitor's Office has continued to engage in community prosecution as well in outreach. Our office continues to provide community outreach by participating in food drives sponsored by our council members. These food drives aid constituents who are experiencing food insecurities. Food drives were held on November 16th, November 18th, December 14th. Matter of fact, it was 2 on December 14th. And we also volunteered at Councilmember Boone's annual turkey giveaway, which was on November 23rd. Slide number 10, please. Slide number 10 shows various photos of the hundreds of pounds of fresh produce, poultry, and milk and juices that were given away in these food drives. If we could go to slide number 11, entitled "We're All in This Together." Again, these photos show how we come together as a city in this pandemic to aid those constituents who are in need. AFRD, APD, DPW, just to name a few of our city departments, have all come out and represented our city in these contactless food drives. Page number 12, entitled "Community Outreach." Even though we're still in a pandemic, our office has held virtual training. On December 7th, our office hosted a virtual event with Benjamin E. Mays High School for SOAR High Training. And SOAR is an acronym in our office for Students Outreach and Resources. Our office has also started a sock drive during the winter season to aid our warming centers when they open. Upcoming community events that we will report out on our next report, we will have a DUI training event April 11th through the 12th, as well as we're planning to participate on March 27th on the Party on Path 400. And we also intend to go back to our Ad Promise centers, promote mental health awareness through education and outreach. Our last page, on page 13, shows our community partners that we work with for a safer city. And at this time, if there's any questions, me and Mr. Carter will be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Solicitor Carter and Deputy Solicitor Smith. Sorry, my colleagues first. Colleagues, questions for the Solicitor's Office?
Mr. Chairman? Oh, go ahead.
Ladies first.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I wanted to direct a question to Solicitor Carter.
Yes.
I know that the location across from the Georgia Aquarium, the hookah bar, I was wondering if you had any updates regarding the status of that. I know that there was a concern regarding a nuisance violation there and a fatal shooting as well, and I was just curious to see if you had any updates.
Yes, I do. That particular property is under an intense investigation for possible more than one type of action. I don't want to go into detail publicly about it, but please rest assured that process has already started with regard to that particular location. We have several agencies involved. We also have several partners that have joined us from the private sector. And I want to make sure that everything is done on all fours, dot every I, cross every T, because we certainly want to have that area to be secure and safe. So the answer to your question is yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Carter and Ms. Smith, for your presentation and the diligent work that you always do. And I want to personally thank you for the volunteers that you continue to send every week to aid us in our HelloFresh distribution. They are always there on site, and they have tremendously impacted what we can do for the public on a weekly basis. So just wanted to say that I appreciate that and look forward to seeing them this Wednesday as well. But my question is, the diversion programs that you're offering, you don't often get credit for it. How does a person, I guess they would have to be charged or they wouldn't be in court, but can you elaborate more on what you're doing in the way of diversion with those who come before you?
Yes, sir, Councilman Bond. And I just wanted to give you a response. We're more than happy to assist you anytime in serving the community with the food drives. We appreciate your leadership. With our pretrial intervention traffic program, we realize that Atlanta specifically, and Metro Atlanta, is challenged in terms of our traffic violations. We have two main categories. We have generally law-abiding citizens who make a mistake or fail some particular time requirement, have no record at all or no extensive record. And we look upon those people in terms of their eligibility to be able to keep their record clear and to also be able to keep restrictions off their license. So what we do is we offer that program to the public through online process. We also do it through an in-court process, and we do it through outreach in many different ways to have citizens to look at the guidelines for the program, decide whether or not they want to avail themselves of driver education opportunities. Many of us remember the old driving school. Well, there's a form of it that still exists. We also give them tips and safety guidelines. After successful completion of the program, the charge is actually dismissed. It does not go on the record. We make a motion to our court and ask our court to dismiss that charge. The criminal program is similar in the sense that we take a look at the record of the person that's before the court. Is this someone who has made a mistake or has omitted to do something that was required and need to be able to go on with their lives and not be held back by a minor infraction or an ordinance that can be viewed as something that could basically hinder their opportunities for employment, hinder opportunities with regard to housing, grants, other activities. As you may know, a lot of people get surprised when they fill out certain applications for housing or fill out certain applications regarding scholarships and grants, that criminal convictions can impact those things. So we basically deal with various partners, and we have our own internal processes that we use to give people an opportunity to pay attention, to make sure that they help people, especially with some of the things that we even try to do with some of our community outreach. Upon successful completion, that person's case is dismissed, and we also work with the defendants or work through their representative counsel to help them with record restriction. Our DEV program is a different focus because what we find with DEV is that with code violations, we have people that are part of our community that are elderly or disabled, and some of our disabled are veterans, some of them are not veterans, but they find themselves in situations where they are violating the law. So how does it help to haul that person into court and convict the person when it really doesn't address the violation? So we have been working on this for a few years, and we've had several members of council that have been involved, have sponsored legislative proposals for us to try to connect with resources to help those people address the problem, but at the same time, not settle them down with criminal violations on their record. And so those are some of the specifics. I would be happy to send you our general descriptions of each of these programs, and would be happy to go out into the community and sponsor as many educational sessions as we need to, because many people don't even know about basic traffic violations. So we're seeking to educate, and I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does, and I will be glad to speak with you offline about partnering on doing some of this outreach. I think the work that you all are doing is exceptional, and you don't get enough credit for it. So I would very much looking forward to getting that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Norwood. Councilmember Norwood, would you still like to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Carter, as you know, several years ago, the Georgia Code, Title 22, Eminent Domain, 22-1-1, was inserted or changed in the Georgia Code to give blight a reason that you could have property taken. As I understand it, we have not really used that. And that, to me, once you know that there's not a homestead exemption,
so that you don't trap someone who can't afford to fix up their property. But if you have the properties, and we now have the ability to not have to hold on to them for years before we can dispose of them, get them to the Land Bank Authority, get them auctioned off, and get them into new ownership. I am really hopeful that ability that we work to get through the General Assembly can be utilized, because I know so many of our council members would love to have the real blight, which is not a wonderful elderly person with limited means, but are absentee landlords, deadbeat properties, the nuisances that you talked about. But there are lots and lots and lots of them. So can you please tell us what y'all are going to do to get a real take the property, starting with the top 10 worst, and keep going in the next few months?
What we are hoping to do, Councilmember Norwood, in the next few months is to collaborate not only with the land bank authorities, but through our city agencies to work through something that you were instrumental in, along with Councilmember Shepherd, the Code Commission, to put some strategies in place and to start listing these properties, not only listing them in terms of the various types of actions that can be taken, because I'm sure that there are different actions with regard to different properties in terms of injunctive relief on some, actual nuisance abatement petitions on some. So I look forward to us working together to do that. Presently, we're working just in the area of the nuisance abatement, but you're absolutely correct that we need to take a broader look at all of the empowerment that we as a city have from our state and from our city code and charter to do that. And I am hopeful that, as we've done in the past, that we can utilize our code commissions or whatever commissions that you all will put together to be a part of that. I know that a part of it would be with the solicitor's office, but a large part of it, of course, would also be with other agencies. So I would look forward to working together on that.
Okay, I would like to request that you give us a one-page outline on which pieces y'all are going to take, which pieces you need the Public Safety Committee to take, which pieces you need the Police Department to take. Let's get a strategy in the next 2 weeks to 4 weeks, because this law, as you know, has been on the books for several years. So with your role, y'all can really take the lead in divvying up who does what when, because I bet we've got at least 2/3 of our council members that would love to see action in their districts on the worst of the worst. And if we take a few of them and we sell them, I think this will get cleared up an awful lot quicker than any other way we could possibly do it. Nobody wants to lose their property. They may not be respectful of the community, and they may not be doing a good job, but they don't want it to totally go away. Let's get a few of these gone and see if we can't light a fire under some of these not excited to be appropriate neighbors in communities that deserve better than that.
Absolutely.
We will get a strategy together and get that to you within the next 2 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Norwood. Any other colleagues with questions? I'll move to my question. I am, of course, particularly interested in not only what Councilmember Norwood mentioned, but also really going to town, so to speak, on our nuisance abatement. Using the tools we already have, and it works when it's done. But I would like to hear what is what's the plan to really ramp up those efforts? What does the Solicitor's office need in order to do that? Staffing or cooperation from other departments, or what is needed to ramp up those nuisance abatement efforts when it comes to derelict property owners or business owners?
We have had an opportunity to already meet with the administration, and that same question came up in terms of resources. So we will be looking to expand our efforts, expand our caseload with regard to these properties to make our city safe. We have already drafted a preliminary request in terms of staffing and line items that we will be discussing with the administration, and certainly will be more than happy to share with the Public Safety and Administration Committee. This would, of course, involve support and back office types of issues that have to be covered with the filing of cases. We're so very happy to be working with the law department and its authorization, and APD, AFDR, and many of the other city agencies. So to answer your question, we have already put some pen to paper, and we'll be more than happy to share that with you.
Okay, that's great to hear. Solicitor Carter, thank you for that. That concludes my questions. Colleagues, one more chance. Any questions? All right, thank you, Solicitor Carter. Thank you, Deputy Solicitor Smith, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Hillis, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Yes, you as well. All right, colleagues, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. First, doing all favorable claims. I'll make a motion to accept all favorable claims. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote on favorable claims.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Waite says aye.
Councilmember Waite, aye. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? All right. Go ahead and close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
All right. That is 6. I'm not.
Boone, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Boone is a yes. I'm going to reflect that in the vote.
I was muted.
Ms. Lindo, can you incorporate Councilmember Boone's vote into
Yes,
that vote
Mr.
total?
Chair. Yes, one moment. Yeah, that will be 7 yeas, Mr. Chair. We'll add it after because we closed the vote.
Okay.
That will be 7 yeas and 0 nays. Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. And now moving on to claims with unfavorable recommendations. I'll make a motion to adverse all these unfavorable claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Norwood. Councilmember Norwood, I see you on the speaker queue. Did you have another question?
Yes, there's 3 unfavorable claims which I asked to be held. Do you want those to be added to this or to wait till the end of the meeting? They're held.
Yeah, I think just procedurally we'll wait until we get to the held items. So we'll do those at the end of the meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Go ahead and open that vote, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waite, how do you vote? Councilmember White, aye. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Boone, yes.
Councilmember Boone, yes. Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councilmember Bond abstains. I'll close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
All right. That is 6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. And now moving on to our regular agenda, we have, I believe, two ordinances for first reads.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ordinance number 1 is 22-1116. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract with Morris and McDaniel, Inc. for RPS 122-0026, captains and lieutenants promotional testing on behalf of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department in the amount not to exceed $370,000 for the purpose of providing promotional examinations. All costs to be paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes. And number 2 is 22-1117. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a Fifth Amendment to a lease agreement with Puritan Atlanta PropCo LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, for approximately 10,469 square feet of office space located at 950 Lowry Boulevard, Suite 16, Atlanta, Georgia, for the Department of Police Office of Special Standards to extend the term of the expired lease agreement for a period of 12 months, beginning retroactively from December 1st, 2021 to November 30th, 2022, and authorizing a base rent not to exceed $23,991.46 per month. That's $287,897.50 per year, plus a pro rata share of taxes, insurance, and operating expenses, authorizing the expenditures to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and waiving Article 10, Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Moving on to ordinances for second reading. We'll start with 22-1084. Ms. Lindo.
22-1084. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee amending the fiscal year 2022 intergovernmental grant fund budget, Department of Police, by adding to anticipations and appropriations the amount of $439,088 for the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Award from the United States Department of Justice and for other purposes.
Thank you. Anyone here from APD to speak on this, particularly what exactly this grant money will be funding?
Hello, this is Chief Murphy again. APD will be utilizing this allocation for the purpose of purchasing vehicles for the fugitive unit and our 911 responders.
All right. I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Amos, second. Councilmember Amos with the second. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits.
Aye.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Bond, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Sorry about that. 7 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Ms. Secretary, item number 4, that's 22-1098. This is an ordinance by Council Members Justin Hillis, Samir Faroki, Byron Amos, and Alex Swan, authorizing the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department to accept donations of tangible goods, movable amenities, and in-kind services during the fiscal year 2022 and 2023 from the Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation, excluding real estate, the total value of which shall not exceed $500,000, to require the Atlanta Fire Department to prepare a report detailing the donations accepted in accordance with the authority granted by this ordinance to be provided to the Department of Finance and to be presented to the Atlanta City Council on a biannual basis and for other purposes.
Thank you. And Ms. Lindo, I'm the primary sponsor of this bill. Councilmember Amos is a co-sponsor. This is a legislation to authorize funding or donations rather from the Fire Foundation to various fire departments across the city. So I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Waits is aye.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Favorable. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 5. That's 2020-1099. This is ordinance by Council Members Lillian Bakhtiari, Matt Westmoreland, Dustin Hillis, Samir Faroki, Jason Winston, Jason Dozier, Byron Amos, and Marcy Collier Overstreet to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Chapter 150, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 2, Administration and Enforcement, Section 50-1, Definitions, to add definitions for electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, and Chapter 150, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 2, Administration and Enforcement, to add a new Section 150-30, Enforcement of EV parking vehicles and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. Heard from the primary sponsor that the laws asked this be held, but would first just like to hear an explanation from the law department as to the need to hold this legislation.
This is Nina Hickson. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Hickson, thank you.
Yes, we have done an opinion regarding the legislation. It's our concern that there are some language changes that are needed based on the fact that the city is preempted from enforcing traffic laws on private property. And so there's some recommendations we've made to make it consistent and lawful. And there's also some additional research that needs to be done.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hickson. Councilmember Bakhtiari will work diligently on that, so I'll make a motion to hold. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, before you make the motion to hold, I thought I had added my name to that when it was read in, but I'd like to add my name.
Okay, well, I will withdraw my motion and make a motion to amend to add Councilmember Bond's name. Are there any other council members that would like their names added?
Boone, please add Boone.
We have Boone, Bond. Any other council members want their name added to this legislation? All right. Is there a second?
Beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
All right, second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare to vote on the amendment.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote? Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, sir.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
All right, there's 7 yeas, 0 nays. It is now amended, and I will make a motion to hold with that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote? Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, sir.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Councilmember Overstreet, how do you vote? All right, please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
That is 6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. That item is held. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 2020-1109. This is an ordinance by Council members Byron C. Amos, Michael Julian Bond, Keisha Sean Waits, and Antonia Lewis to amend Chapter 10, Alcohol Beverages, Article 1, Section 10-1, Definitions, to create a definition of security plan Chapter 10, Article 2, Division 2 License, Subdivision 1, General Provision, Section 10-48 Application, B16 in Chapter 10, Article 2, Division 2 License, Subdivision 3, Renewal, Revocations and Transfer, and Section 10-106 Annual Renewal Form, and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, I believe that there was a request to amend this to add your name as a co-sponsor.
Yeah, before we get into that, I know Law has also requested this be held. I'd just like to hear what the explanation is for that. It's probably more like the previous one, needs further review, but just, Ms. Hickson, could you elaborate on the need to hold?
Yes, there is a need for additional review, as well as the reviewing the impact that it would have with regard to our LRB process. And I understood that the primary maker also wanted this matter to be held for further discussion and consideration.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hickson. With that, I will make a motion to amend to add my name as a co-sponsor. I was inadvertently left off. Are there any other members of this committee who would like to be a co-sponsor on this legislation?
Bond.
I believe you're already on here, Councilmember Bond.
Oh, okay.
Any other?
Norwood.
Councilmember Norwood. Okay. Any other council members want to add their name as a co-sponsor to Councilmember Amos's legislation about security plans for alcohol licenses? All right, I will make a motion to add Councilmember Hillitz and Councilmember Norwood as co-sponsors. Is there a second?
Second, Amos.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. It is amended. I'll now make a motion to hold with that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, please.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held as amended in committee. Now moving on to resolutions. Item number 7, Ms. Linda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's 22R3143. This is a resolution by Council Members Antonio Lewis, Keisha Sean Waits, Jason Winston, and Marcy Collingwood Overstreet, urging the Atlanta Police Department to consider implementing policy changes that would allow patrol officers to utilize steady streaming blue lights as a tool to deter criminal activity in all APD zones 1 through 6 and for other purposes.
All right. Anyone from APD want to speak to this legislation?
Yes, Councilman, I'm sorry, I'm here. I couldn't get off of mute. In reference to that, there's concerns with the use of the strobe lights. We don't want to be sensitized when there is truly an emergency. But, we do support using them in stationary bar if that makes a difference, just to show we have presence.
And your newer light bars are already equipped with that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, sir.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Councilmember Amos, how do you vote? Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, Madam Chair, is item number 8 of 22R3146. It's a resolution by Council members Michael Julian Bond, Andrea L. Boone, Antonio Lewis, and Mary Norwood to express the City of Atlanta's support for a planned march from Centennial Olympic Park to Rodney King Senior Park in order to honor the legacy and accomplishments of Ambassador Andrew J. Young, scheduled for March 10, 2022, due to the unique public safety consideration thereof and for other purposes.
All right, first, Councilmember Bond, would you like to speak to this legislation, the primary sponsor?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is a part of a series of activities that are going to take place around the birthday of former Mayor Andrew Young. And as a part of the activities, we want to make sure that safety and security for the participants is present, and for this auspicious occasion, I'd like to move approval.
All right.
And of course, invite anyone who wants to add their name, please do so.
Overstreet, please. Wait.
All right, we'll withdraw that. Would you like to withdraw that motion to approve and make a motion to amend, Councilmember Bond?
Yes, sir. I'll follow that course. Withdraw my motion to approve and make a motion to amend.
Second by Waits.
Second by Councilmember Waits, and the motion to amend is to add Councilmember Waits and Councilmember Overstreet as co-sponsors. Anyone else? All right. Please prepare the vote on that amendment.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Boone, all votes are cast. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
70 yeas, 0 nays. It is amended, and it is now before us as amended. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Waits, aye.
Councilmember Waits is aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
70 yeas, 0 nays. Items favorable as amended. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 9 is 22R3148. This is a resolution by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond establishing a task force to review policies and best practices to create a safer environment for occupants living in apartment complexes and other leasing communities in the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
All right, Councilmember Bond, you're the sponsor of this legislation.
I'd like to move approval.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Bond. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote? Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, sir.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
70 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is number 10. It's 22R3175. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor and the chief of fire rescue to enter into re-employment temporary service agreements to be renewed annually with retired or separated City of Atlanta fire rescue personnel at the rank of firefighter and other classification for the purpose of providing public safety services for the City of Atlanta Fire Rescue Department and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Do we have someone here from the fire department to speak to this item?
Mr. Chair, I believe that Assistant Chief Burton is to be on the line.
Yes, Deputy Chief Burton. The point of this legislation is to reemploy retired firefighters who have the institutional knowledge to bring back and assist us with our daily duties and responsibilities, and have those people work not only in a 53 status,
but all the way up to include 40-hour personnel as well, into a 40-hour status as well.
Thank you, Chief. And this is, I guess, like APD's, what they call the Recapture Program?
Yes.
And has Fire historically had this program? This is reauthorizing it, or is this something new we're trying out?
It's reauthorizing it. We currently work, we hire people to work in the stations, and that's in a 53-hour status, but we're also bringing it back in a 40-hour status as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Vaughn. Please refer the vote.
Wait, aye.
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits is an aye. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? All right, please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
The next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 11. That's 22R3176. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to accept on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department a donation from the Atlanta Police Foundation of 9 2021 Dodge Chargers, valued at approximately $439,425 for an additional Atlanta Police Department vehicles in order to augment the police presence throughout the city of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Deputy Chief Murphy, are you speaking to this item? Is anyone from APD on to speak to this item? I'd particularly like to know if the vehicles have an allocated use yet. Is there anyone on from APD currently that can speak to this item?
We're checking to see if Chief Murphy is still on that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Linda.
We do have a Major Kenton on the phone, on the line. I'm not sure if he's be able to. He's a major. I understand that Major Kenton is on the line.
Yes, I am on the line, but I cannot speak on that topic. I was for another resolution.
Thank you, Major Canton. So Deputy Chief Murphy is no longer with us on the line. Ms. Linda?
Oh, yeah, she is, Mr. Chair. She's back on. One moment.
Okay.
She's back on the call. She may be muted herself. Okay, I'm trying to reach out to her. She may have muted herself. She is on the line.
Okay, Ms. Linda, let's just move on to, let's take the settlements and we'll come back to this at the end. Once we get stuff back on the line. So we, 12, 13, 14, 15 are settlements. We can take those as a block. Unless there's any objections.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's number 12 is 22R3177. This is a resolution by the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee
Authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Jamal Davis versus City of Atlanta, civil action listed hearing, pending in the Superior Court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $17,000, authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 13 is 22R 3178. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Arcel McDaniel versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending the State Court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $50,000. Authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item 14 is 22R 3179. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Adam Cahill versus City of Atlanta, civil action listed herein, pending in the State Court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $43,000, authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 15 is 22R 3180. The resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the City of Atlanta in the case of Amin Height versus City of Atlanta, civil action number listed herein in Fulton County State Court in the amount of $10,000, and authorizing the amount to be paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes.
All right, I will make the motion to approve these 4 items. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
Waits is aye.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits says she's an aye. Please close the vote.
Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are favorable. Ms. Linda, we can now move on to those 3 held items.
Mr. Chair, we do have one. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. We do have one dual referrals item, which is number 16.
Yeah, please leave that in.
This is a resolution by Councilmembers Lilian Bakhtarari, Matt Westmoreland, Dustin Hillis, Amir Faroki, Jason Winston, Jason Dozier, Byron Amos, and Marcia Collier Overstreet, recognizing the City of Atlanta 911 communication dispatchers as professional first responders and requesting that the Department of Human Resources conduct a study on a national scale to assess the issue of parity and compensation with 911 communication dispatchers in similar metropolitan urban environments, and examine issues related to filling vacancies, employee retention, and to identify best practices and for other purposes. I believe I received an email that Councilmember Waits would like to amend this to add her name as a sponsor.
Please add Boone also. Boone.
Okay.
Boone. And Norwood.
Councilmember Norwood.
And Bond.
Councilmember Bond. I will make that motion to amend to add those 4 names. Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Waits is aye.
Councilmember Waits is an aye. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable and moves on to the Finance Executive Committee. Now for those 3 held claims, Ms. Lindo.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This item number 17.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Lindo.
This is for claims number held item number 17, 18, and 19, 22R 3014, 22R 3016, and 22R 3097.
All right. I will make a motion to adverse those 3 items. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote. to adverse those 3 items.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, please.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Bond, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Those 3 items are adverse. We'll now go back to the legislation we were waiting to hear from Deputy Chief Murphy on. Is she on the line now, Ms. Linda?
I'm checking, Mr. Chair. We understand that she is on the line, and she's unmuted. I'm not sure why.
Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to, certainly not going to hold or vote down legislation to accept a donation for police cars. I'll be on the first story on the news tonight, but we'll make a motion that we approve this on condition that we receive information on where these 9 police vehicles will be allocated. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Waits, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on condition that we receive that requested information. I believe that completes our agenda. Is that correct, Ms. Lindo?
One moment, Mr. Chair. I think we may have an issue with one of the votes from staff. I'm trying to figure out. I believe item number 16, Ms. Waits and Mr. Chair, we amended that, but we didn't approve as amended. I apologize. I was trying to reach Mr. Murphy, Chief Murphy, and was distracted. So that needs to be, we need a motion to approve as amended.
Okay, and I will make that motion to approve as amended. And is there a second?
Second by Waits.
Second by Councilmember Waits. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
That is 7 yeas, 0 nays, and that item is favorable as amended. And I believe that completes our agenda. Is that now correct, Ms. Lindo? And I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair. That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right. Anyone with any general comments or questions?
I have an announcement.
Yes, Councilmember Bond, go right ahead.
I do have one question that I forgot to ask. Is there a representative from APD still on the call? I have one more question. I skipped it in my notes.
We understand that Chief Murphy is on the line. I'm not sure if her phone is muted, but we are showing that she's still on the call.
All right. Anyone else from APD? Councilmember Vaughn, maybe you pose your question in committee and we can reach out to get some answers.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, the question is, hello?
Yes, we hear you, Mr. Bond. Go ahead. Mr. Bond.
A couple of years, the police chief announced publicly that we're not going to respond or pursue actively shoplifting as an offense. And that was that was Chief Fields. That was just prior to a few months before the pandemic came in or so. And what I want to know is that still the policy for APD? Are they still not pursuing shoplifting at our stores and retailers around the city? And can they give us an update on that?
Councilmember Bond, part of that I missed, but are you asking, do we still investigate shoplifting and do we respond to them?
Yes, that was Chief Shields made an announcement 2 or 3 years ago that APD wasn't going to respond that way. And of course, we've got a different chief now. A lot has happened between then and now.
Yeah, we still respond to shoplifting and we still investigate shoplifting.
Okay, so that policy has been repealed then.
I don't know that to ever have been in written policy for us, but so I don't know. I don't want to say repealed. This might be the correct word. I don't know it to ever have been. I know there was at one time the practice was in a certain zone that was at once introduced as a possible solution to freeing up response in that zone, but it never came to fruition in policy.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So in the remaining zones around the city, then I guess it was a misperception because people in general believe that APD wouldn't respond to shoplifting anymore at that particular time. So that's good news to hear.
Right.
Recently, if I can chime in, I was given secondhand, not firsthand, but secondhand information that there are some people that are loading up a shopping cart at retail establishments along Peachtree and Buckhead because they know no one is coming to arrest them. They're literally going through grocery stores and drugstores and loading up an entire shopping cart and walking out. So I think that if the practice that we're not going to follow through against shoplifting, I think we need to know what we're facing because the bad guys have figured it out.
Yeah.
Right. If it's active again, there needs to be another public announcement that APD is actively pursuing shoplifting again, because it was my understanding with some of the folks who communicated with me, some of the smaller merchants, they've just been throwing their hands up for the last 3 years and don't even bother to call anymore.
Right. Okay. Well, if they need to call 911, and I'll get with I'll speak to Director Spikes and reference that and see what we can do to work on that messaging. But we have never stopped. If someone calls 911 about shoplifting, we will respond. So if we need to clear that up, then I'll discuss that with Director Spikes and make sure that we work on messaging around that.
Okay, great. That would be wonderful and welcome, I think, from people all across the city.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilman Vaughn, Councilman Norwood. Deputy Chief, now that you're back with us, I don't know if you have a technical issue or what, but do you have the information to go ahead and meet the condition we placed on the police car donations of the 9 units? Do you have the information requested as to where those will be assigned to? Or are you going to need to work on getting that?
I'm sorry, so are you speaking about the parks?
So we were on legislation when I don't know if you were on the call to hear us, but the legislation for the Atlanta Police Department to receive 9 Dodge Chargers as donations through the foundation. And my question that was posed was, do those 9 cars have an assigned home yet? And what that home would be?
Yes. I'm sorry. I thought you said parks. I'm I do know about the charges. As far as their permanent assignment, I believe they are going to the zones, but don't hold me to that. Let me see if I can get that answer for you real quick, and then I'll shoot that message to you through email.
Please just email myself and Miss Linda, and then we'll get it out to the committee, and you can have that condition met very quickly.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you. Nothing else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Hi, this is Waits. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are in the process of trying to stand up our Public Safety Commission citywide, and that these appointments are available, and for each member to encourage those who wish to participate to reach out to their prospective district members for appointment opportunities. And we're also reaching out to the various leadership through APD and the other entities that are a part of the commission. So we're actively looking to have our first meeting by the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Waits. Anyone else?
I have an announcement, Mr. Chair, but this is not public safety related, for the general good of the body. Our weekly Hello Fresh will be this week, February 16th at 3 p.m. at the Greater Elizabeth Missionary Baptist Church at 4555 Hampton Road, where Pastor Matthew Jenkins is the pastor. It's at 3 p.m., and of course there's no prerequisite to receive this bounty. We're battling food insecurity here during the pandemic, and of course Atlanta's inflation rate is the highest in the nation, higher than San Francisco, which is mightily higher. And so if you're there at 3 p.m., we will distribute, these meals, feed a family of 4. It's all fresh products and ingredients. And of course, if you don't need it, but you might know someone in your family or community that does, please pass the word along. That's 3 p.m. this Wednesday at the Greater Elizabeth Missionary Baptist Church, 4555 Hamilton Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vaughn, for leading that effort for many, many months now. And thank you to HelloFresh. I'm a weekly customer of theirs myself, and just to plan in your ear, Councilmember Vaughn, we're ready for another distribution over here in District 9 whenever you and your team are ready.
Okay. We just need a place. So, yes, we're more than willing to do it.
Definitely. All right. Any other general announcements or remarks? All right. I'll entertain that motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Moved by Councilmember Vaughn. On unanimous consent of members present, we are adjourned.
Good meeting.